Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Varithella had too many moons for Theo Merrick's taste. They spun in strange tandem across the sky, their silver reflections bouncing off the purple lakes like broken mirrors, and it always gave him a mild headache if he stared too long. The planet itself was beautiful, lush, gravity just a shade lighter than Earth's, and its air faintly scented like lavender left too long in a sunbeam. But Theo wasn't a tourist. He was a soldier, and worse, a diplomatic one. He was stationed at the royal compound as part of the Human Varithellan Alliance exchange program, which mostly meant standing around in ceremonial armor that itched, being ignored by guards with better cheekbones, and occasionally being asked if humans actually had internal organs. Yes, Theo had once muttered, and feelings too, believe it or not. On the morning everything shattered, Theo was loitering near the South Gardens with a half-crushed nutrition bar and a deep appreciation for how little was expected of him. Birds, if one could call a six-winged floating sphere a bird, buzzed lazily overhead. Alien diplomats strolled by in layered robes that shimmered like oil slicks, and Theo tried to look as unimpressive as possible. Then the first explosion hit. It wasn't loud exactly, more like the air folded in on itself. The shock wave rolled over the gardens, turning sculptures to rubble and sky glass fountains to deadly shrapnel. A second boom followed, closer, sharper. Theo hit the ground on instinct, the bar flying from his hand, and rolled into a hedge that immediately tried to sting him. Ow! Hostile shrubbery, noted. Sirens blared. Guards scrambled. A voice barked over the intercom in 3 languages. It took Theo a second to realize he was hearing one word repeatedly. Evacuate. He stood, scanning the chaos. A royal barge lay cracked in the courtyard, its once glittering fins curled like dry leaves. Smoke billowed from shattered towers. But amid the noise, movement caught his eye. A flicker of pale blue fabric vanishing behind a collapsed wall near the old library wing. Theo didn't think. He bolted. The deeper he ran, the stranger things got. The palace interior, usually pristine and humming with tech, now sparked and flickered like a dying amusement park. Doors were sealed or off their hinges. One corridor smelled weirdly like roasted almonds, which probably meant plasma leakage. Good, excellent, death with a pleasant aftertaste. Then he heard it, a hiccup, tiny, wet, unmistakably a child's. He followed the sound down a half-collapsed hallway, boots crunching over broken tiles. A door creaked open to his left, its security field flickering erratically. Inside was a storage chamber, barely lit, and crouched behind a crate, clutching a singed plush creature with 3 heads and too many limbs, was a small alien girl. She had long, pointed ears, slightly translucent, like delicate glass. Her skin was moonlight pale, her eyes wide and violet, the irises slightly glowing in the dark. She looked about 6. Her dress, royal blue and silver, was torn and soot-stained. She stared at him in frozen horror, trembling. Theo crouched slowly. "Hey," he said gently. "I'm not gonna hurt you. You okay?" She didn't answer. Her lip trembled. Then, with all the royal dignity in the galaxy, she hurled the plush creature at him with a shriek and bolted. Theo caught it midair. Okay, starting off strong. He chased her through narrow passages, calling out reassurances that were definitely not protocol approved. "I'm on your side. I'm human, but the helpful kind." She skidded into a hallway and tripped on fallen wiring. Before she could rise, Theo slid next to her and wrapped her gently in his arms. She screamed, then bit him. "Ow, okay. Wow, yep. You have sharp teeth. Excellent evolutionary choice." He didn't let go. She wriggled like a wild animal for 3 seconds, then went still. Very still. "Hey!" She'd fainted. Cradling her in his arms, Theo stood slowly, the building groaning around them. Somewhere, above, part of the ceiling cracked. The fire was getting closer. He looked down at the girl, her small face streaked with ash, her breath shallow but steady. "You better be important," he muttered, "because I'm pretty sure I just skipped about 50 interstellar regulations." And then he ran. The royal compound was collapsing like a flan in a microwave. As Theo bolted down the corridor with the unconscious alien girl in his arms, overhead beams snapped with groans that sounded eerily like disappointed wails. Sparks showered from the ceiling like angry fireflies. His boots skidded across slick tiles as the palace's emergency stabilizers hiccuped, literally hiccuped, and sent the floor momentarily sideways. Yup, still hate alien architecture, Theo muttered, tightening his grip around the little girl, who now clung to him even in sleep, her forehead buried against his collarbone. Somewhere behind them, a collapsed stairwell swallowed a decorative statue with a noise that could only be described as schlunk. His exit plan, if one could call it that, involved heading toward the southern launch deck. The only problem was that the southern launch deck had, as of 30 seconds ago, stopped existing. A hole the size of a cargo shuttle had been torn through it. In its place, air, flame, and the lingering echo of oops from the universe itself. New plan. He darted into the service corridors, narrower and lower ceilinged, places that smelled like lubricants and overcooked alien soup. There were cleaning drones frantically trying to mop soot while setting themselves on fire. One squeaked past him, dragging a bucket labeled, "Not a bomb." Theo didn't have time to question that. Somewhere in the flickering mess, a hollow terminal buzzed weakly to life as he passed. A digital voice, too cheerful by far, chimed in. Reminder, guests are encouraged to explore the royal atrium while awaiting retrieval. Theo didn't stop. Reminder, guests are encouraged to... He kicked the terminal. It fizzled with satisfaction. He finally reached a supply dock, and it was, miraculously, intact. Emergency shuttles lined the walls like obedient beetles, wings folded. Theo rushed to the nearest one and slapped the entry pad. It blinked red. He slapped it again. Red. The girl stirred in his arms, whimpered softly. Her ears twitched. Come on, he hissed. Don't make me sweet talk you. Beep. Green light. Oh, so you do like a little attention? He grinned. The shuttle's hatch hissed open and he ducked inside, laying the girl gently on a padded bench. The moment he tapped the console to initiate launch sequence, a soothing voice whispered, Please select escape destination. Anywhere not exploding, Theo growled. Destination confirmed, not exploding. Estimated survival rate, 38%. I hate this planet. With a grumble and a burst of ion gas, the shuttle detached and dropped into freefall before the thrusters kicked in and hauled them into the sky. Smoke curled beneath them. The palace shrank into a smudge of firelight. Theo leaned back in the pilot's seat, breathing hard, the girl still unconscious, curled up like a kitten made of royalty and soot. Only then did the realization settle in. He hadn't just saved a child. She was the child. He'd seen her once before at a ceremonial banquet, seated beside the towering Queen Valmira herself, small and solemn, wearing a circlet that sparkled with embedded star fragments. He remembered wondering if the little girl even knew how many systems bowed to her mother's will. Now she had drooled on his shirt. The shuttle's nav readouts blinked. A human-friendly outpost was within reach. Station Horizon Arc 5, a neutral medical platform orbiting a moon. It wasn't a royal destination, but it was safe. And more importantly, it had snacks. He set the course. As the shuttle slid into orbit, lights stabilizing and the hum of the engines settling into a purr, Theo looked down at the girl again. Her breathing had steadied. Her crown was half melted, still clenched tightly in her tiny fist. He didn't know what the protocol was for rescuing alien royalty. He doubted bring snacks and make jokes was in the manual. But hey, he'd improvised worse. Then softly the girl stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, glowing faintly violet in the dim light. She looked up at him, squinting. You smell like burnt toast, she said hoarsely. Theo blinked. That's probably the palace on fire. She nodded solemnly. Okay, then added, I like toast. And just like that, the hardest part of the day was over. Maybe, probably, not at all. Station Horizon Arc 5 floated like a steel lily in the black of space, its docking rings spinning with quiet grace. Unlike the lavish ceremonial geometry of Verithellan architecture, Horizon Arc was built by humans, and it showed. It was blocky, practical, and slightly dented in places no one admitted to. The welcome message on approach read, We probably won't explode. Theo always liked that. The shuttle coasted in, magnetic clamps guiding it home. Theo watched through the cockpit window as the outer bay doors yawned open, revealing a hangar full of maintenance bots, bored-looking crew in rumpled uniforms, and a vending unit perpetually out of strawberry synth bars. He sighed with unexpected relief. The girl stirred behind him. She had refused to give her name, instead demanding a spoon, a nap, and for someone to make the ceiling stop blinking. All fair requests, honestly. She now sat bundled in a med blanket, her tiny feet poking out like question marks. Okay, Theo muttered as the hatch opened. Time to explain why I just showed up unannounced with the heir to an alien empire. Should go great. A young technician, chewing on something bright green and possibly alive, did a double take as Theo emerged. Sir? Is that a... Yes, Theo cut in. Yes, it is. No, you can't pet her. And yes, I need medical and diplomatic clearance yesterday. The girl piped up, I'm hungry, and he smells weird. Theo shot her a look. You're really leaning into this royalty thing, aren't you? She stuck her tongue out. I command toast. Within 20 minutes, they had commandeered a secure medbay, and Theo was halfway through explaining the situation to a harried-looking administrator who kept massaging her temples like she was preparing for psychic combat. Let me get this straight, she said, voice sharp. You found the Verithellan princess, by accident, during a palace bombing, and evacuated her here, without authorization, in a stolen escape pod. Theo considered that. Technically, she found me, and I prefer the term commandeered. Do you know what kind of diplomatic scandal this could cause? Lady, Theo said, I'm a human on an alien planet who just got bit by royalty. I live in scandal now. The girl had by then fallen asleep mid-toast in the next room, one small hand still clutched around the remains of her plush creature. The medbots had cleared her of injuries, though they noted elevated stress levels and a diet lacking in essential minerals. Theo suggested chocolate. The bots didn't argue. A few hours later, the secure line to Verithella finally connected. The screen flickered, static cleared, and there she was, Queen Valmira, tall, composed, and radiating that kind of regality that could shatter stone just by frowning at it. Her long ears rose like silver blades, adorned with gleaming threads of information braids, an alien display of status and memory. Her eyes, violet and ancient, locked onto Theo's face. Her voice, when it came, was colder than a glacier's shadow. Identify yourself. Theo straightened. Sergeant Theo Merrick, Earth Diplomatic Forces. I pulled your daughter out of a crumbling palace and into a vending machine-powered shuttle. Also, she's eaten 3 slices of toast and a protein bar. You're welcome. There was a long pause. Then softly a second voice. Mama? The girl had appeared beside him without sound. Her hand slipped into his. Theo blinked down in surprise. Valmira's posture wavered. You are unharmed? I have toast crumbs, the girl said. He smells like fire and hair. Valmira exhaled a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. Almost. I will come, she said. The screen went dark. Theo stared. Great. Royal Mom inbound. Hope the station has tea. He looked down at the little girl. She was yawning again, leaning against his leg. I should probably ask your name now, he said. She mumbled something that sounded like Lyra. He nodded. Nice to meet you, Lyra. Let's hope your mom doesn't vaporize me. She might, but I'll tell her not to, Lyra added sleepily. And just like that, Theo's day somehow got more complicated and weirder than getting bitten by a space princess in a burning palace. The Queen's arrival was anything but subtle. Station Horizon Arc 5 wasn't built for ceremonial landings. It had never hosted royalty, unless one counted a smuggler from the Lupa Belt who once wore a fake tiara and insisted on being addressed as your spiciness. So when Queen Valmira's vessel, an obsidian prism wrapped in gold threadlight and humming with silent power, glided into Docking Bay 3, everyone paused. Conversations halted. Tools were dropped. Even the coffee machine stopped dripping, as if realizing it wasn't worthy. Theo stood at the edge of the hangar, arms folded, trying to project an air of totally not about to be atomized by an alien monarch. Beside him, Lyra held a lollipop that had somehow been declared medically stabilizing, by a very confused technician. She swung her legs and hummed tunelessly. When the Queen stepped out of the ship, time didn't stop, but it slowed just a little. Valmira was tall, clad in armor that shimmered with kinetic energy, each plate engraved with the flowing lines of her people's ancient script. Her long ears curved slightly back like elegant blades, and her eyes, deep violet, rimmed with silver, took in the scene with practiced calculation. No guards flanked her. She didn't need them. Her presence alone bent the atmosphere like gravity. Theo cleared his throat. So, welcome aboard. Nice place, right? Smells a little like coolant and burnt noodles, but it grows on you. The Queen tilted her head. You are the human who rescued my daughter. Theo glanced at Lyra. She was now attempting to stick her lollipop to the side of her own head. Technically, yes. Though rescued might be generous, it was more of a panicked sprint through collapsing architecture while being bitten situation. Valmira said nothing. Then she stepped closer and knelt, gracefully, impossibly, and held her hand out to Lyra. The girl didn't move. No, the Queen blinked. No? She's scary, Lyra said, pointing at her mother. Then she pointed at Theo. He's funny. Theo raised both eyebrows. I'll take it. Not often I outrank a monarch in the comedy department. Valmira straightened slowly, her expression unreadable. You have earned an audience. Walk with me. He hesitated. Do I get a sash or something? You get to live. Fair point. They left the hangar, flanked by a contingent of very confused station staff. Lyra skipped beside them, holding Theo's hand like it was hers by decree. The Queen was silent until they reached the observation lounge, a room with curved glass panels offering a view of the nearby moon, fractured with glowing rivers of bioluminescent algae. Valmira turned toward Theo, her gaze softened by the alien light. When the palace fell, I thought she was lost. My own guards failed. My counselors hid. Yet a human, a foreigner, risked death. He shrugged. She was scared, small, had good aim with a plush toy. Valmira's mouth twitched, a not-quite smile. You could have left her. I didn't, he said simply. The Queen nodded. Then, before he could brace, she reached out and touched 2 fingers to his temple. A whisper of heat passed through him. Images flashed, brief, silent, emotional. Fear, hope, a child's laugh, her memories, his, entwined. When she pulled back, Theo stumbled, blinking. What was that? He asked. A bond, recognition. You are known to me now. That's either very comforting or very alarming. Lyra yawned behind them. Can we go somewhere with pillows now? Valmira lifted her daughter gently. Yes, and I believe this station has toast. Theo grinned. We'll make an interstellar alliance out of carbs yet. And for a moment in the cold orbit of a fractured moon, something warm settled between the 3 of them. Not duty, not diplomacy, just quiet understanding. And toast. Probably. The first official meeting between Queen Valmira and the station's commanding officer took place in the only room clean enough to host it, the hydroponics lab, which meant the interspecies diplomatic summit occurred surrounded by oversized cucumbers, misting vents, and a suspiciously judgmental tomato vine. Commander Reyes, a middle-aged man who had once broken up a trade war by faking food poisoning, looked exhausted before the meeting even started. Let me summarize, he said, pacing between lettuce towers. An Earth soldier rescued the heir to the Verithellan throne from an active attack, brought her here in an escape pod that wasn't his, and now the Queen herself is having tea with our hydroponic vegetables. Queen Valmira sipped her steaming beverage, seated on a metal crate someone had covered with a towel bearing the words, Property of Laundry Unit B12. Correct, she said, although I find the scent of this cucumber air soothing. Theo, leaning against a table of bioluminescent moss, gave a casual shrug. I told you it'd all make sense in context. Reyes pinched the bridge of his nose. It doesn't, at all. Lyra, wearing a lab coat 3 sizes too big and safety goggles for no reason, skipped by holding 2 nutrient pellets like they were sacred stones. I'm a scientist now, she announced to no one in particular. I'm inventing royal snacks. Theo gave her a thumbs up. Great. Make sure at least one of them is chocolate-based. Behind all the levity, though, tension bubbled like the nutrient tanks. The Queen hadn't just come to say thank you. Her arrival had political implications that couldn't be ignored. Already distant Verithellan envoys were pinging the station with encrypted comms, and at least one Earth diplomat had requested clarification on why a soldier is playing nursemaid to a galactic princess. But Valmira seemed unfazed. She was watching Theo closely now, measuring him not as a man who had saved her daughter, but as something more, something she wasn't sure how to name yet. Finally, after a silence that lasted just long enough to make Rhea sweat, the Queen turned to Theo. We do not bestow honors lightly. Our people remember their debts in centuries, not medals. There is precedent for adopting guardians beyond our species, but none until now have been human. Theo opened his mouth, closed it, thought better, then tried again. So, I'm being offered what exactly? A job? A title? A throne made of moss? Valmira raised a perfectly sculpted brow. You find humor in discomfort. He nodded. It's a survival strategy. She stood and moved closer, her long ears twitching subtly in the station's recycled air. You are being offered place, protection, recognition. Not because you demand it, but because you did not. That landed harder than he expected. Lyra tugged on his sleeve. Does that mean you stay with us forever? Theo knelt beside her. I don't know, kid. I think it means, if you need me, I'll be around. And maybe I'll get used to the smell of fancy alien air. Valmira watched them for a beat, her expression unreadable. Then quietly she said, You are part of this court now, Theo Merrick. Whether it floats above Verithella or in a hydroponics lab orbiting a half-frozen moon. Reyes looked to the ceiling. Please don't turn my station into a royal embassy. Theo raised a hand. No promises. The Queen for the first time smiled without restraint, and somewhere between the humming vines and Lyra's nutrient pellet experiments, a soldier who had once wanted nothing more than to be forgotten had just become unforgettable. Space had a sound, Theo had decided, not in the literal sense. Vacuum wasn't exactly great for acoustics, but in the feeling of it, the low hum of distant thrusters, the soft, rhythmic click of a console cycling, the nearly inaudible chime of stars beyond glass. Horizon Arc 5 had quieted in the weeks following the Queen's visit, but a different kind of noise lingered. New protocols, diplomatic visitors, and somehow an official Verithellan toast dispenser installed in the mess hall. Theo stood in the observatory again, the same curved window he'd looked out from days ago. Only this time the quiet was less heavy. Lyra was beside him, balanced on a stool too tall for her, her nose nearly pressed to the glass. She wore a small cape now, some combination of princess garb and lab coat embroidered with stars. Someone had called it a political fashion statement. She called it her adventure cloak. Below them, Verithella spun in its gentle, storm-ringed beauty. The palace had been repaired, the throne restored, but its future was already different. You could stay, you know, Lyra said quietly. Forever. Theo glanced down at her. You're gonna miss me, huh? She nodded, then frowned. But I don't like hugging, just so you know. Noted, I'll cancel the parade and commemorative squeeze. Behind them, the doors slid open with the faint hiss of old hydraulics. Queen Valmira entered without ceremony, her battle armor replaced by ceremonial robes of starlight silk, glowing faintly in patterns that moved like nebula. Her long ears dipped forward in acknowledgement. We leave within the hour, she said, not unkindly. Theo nodded. I figured. Word is, your people are ready for answers. For changes, Valmira crossed the room to stand beside him. They await reassurance, but what they need is something new. She turned her gaze to Lyra. She will remember your actions longer than history books will, and longer still, she will remember how you made her laugh in the dark. Let's be fair, I had excellent material. Exploding palaces, angry robots, royal bite marks. The Queen allowed herself a breath of a smile. Do not mistake simplicity for insignificance, Theo Merrick. You became something no treaty could fabricate. A bridge. One that walks, stumbles, occasionally mutters sarcasm, but connects. He chuckled, then looked down at his boots. You think your council's going to accept all this? A human with no pedigree, no noble blood, just someone who ran when the fire hit? Valmira stepped closer and gently, without grandeur, placed her hand over his heart. They will, because I do, and because Lyra does. Theo looked at her, then really looked, past the titles, past the armor and regality, and saw someone exhausted, burdened, but open. Someone who had learned to hope again. I'm not good at bows, he murmured, but I'm better at showing up. That will be enough, she said. They left the observatory in silence. When the Verithellan vessel departed later that day, it did so without spectacle. No fireworks, no speeches, just a quiet pulse of ion energy and a shimmer as it disappeared into the stars. Theo stayed on the observation deck a while longer. His transfer papers were still unsigned on his desk. Commander Reyes had given him the option. Stay on the station as ambassador in training, or return to Earth and file the galaxy's weirdest incident report. He looked at the stars, then at the empty space where the Queen's ship had been. A soft chime rang behind him. Someone had left toast on a plate beside the console, cut diagonally the way Lyra liked it. Under it was a note in elegant Verithellan script. He couldn't read it, but he didn't have to. The meaning was simple. You are welcome in our sky. Theo smiled, then took a bite of toast, burned just around the edges, and walked away. Not back to duty, but forward, toward whatever strange, glittering thing waited for him next.